Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Yasmine S, cardiologist and best-selling author, and this is my podcast, Positive Vibes on the Sunny Side. Each episode, my goal is to bring you uplifting stories and insights to inspire you to live your happiest, healthiest, most positive life. So thank you for joining me. Hello again. Just some quick notes before we get into today's interview. The 2026 Collector's Edition calendars are now available for a limited time, and early copies have already shipped to some very smart Positive Vibes members who are getting ahead of the holiday rush. So if you'd like to do the same, you can find these unique premium calendars custom designed by me at lastskywriting.com. That's LASTSKYWRITING.com. And I'm doing some very special giveaways this holiday season, and they're all happening through the Positive Vibes e-magazine and newsletter. It's completely free to join. Just head to YasmineAliMD.com. That's YasmineAliMD.com. When you sign up, you'll instantly get your free Positive Vibes ebook, an inspiring guide to positive living and better health. Again, that's YasmineAliMD.com, and I will have that link in the show notes. Make sure you're on the list so you don't miss the holiday surprises. And finally, today's interview does have a slideshow that goes along with it, full of great photos that are sure to bring a smile to your face. If you'd like to see that video version of this episode, head on over to my YouTube channel. The link will be in the show notes, or you can just search YouTube for Positive Vibes by Yasmine S. MD. Now let's get into today's special interview. Today is a Positive Vibes episode, and that's PAW in positive, to celebrate our four-legged friends and family. Because what could be more positive than the pure joy our pets can bring us? So I'm really quite excited today for this special episode because today I'm talking with David Frei, co-host of the National Dog Show on NBC and Peacock, which airs every year on Thanksgiving Day. Now, we all have our Thanksgiving traditions, and I'll let you in on a little secret. One of mine, one that I look forward to every single year, is watching the National Dog Show on NBC. I watch it with my own dogs by my side or with them running around the room, as the case may be, and I geek out on it so much that I even watch the replays and extras on all the breeds later when they stream online at NBC.com or on Peacock. I even arrange my Thanksgiving cooking around it, and my family has learned to accept this, along with my other eccentricities. But really, I think it's brilliant how NBC has managed to air this show at the same time from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m., in every time zone, everywhere in the country, on Thanksgiving Day, right after the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So you can just imagine how delighted I am to be talking with David Frei, who co-anchors the National Dog Show along with John O'Hurley. But more than that, David has an incredible history of service in the world of dogs. This year's National Dog Show will mark David's 51st major dog show. He has 27 Westminster Kennel Club dog shows on his resume, and this will be his 24th National Dog Show. Amazingly, his journey started in football public relations, but he discovered a passion for dogs that commandeered his career along the way. The football connection stems from his father, Jerry Frei, the former head coach of the nationally renowned University of Oregon football team, who inspired his son to apply his communications skills in that arena. He became the head of PR for the San Francisco 49ers and the assistant for the Denver Broncos before moving into television and entertainment PR. In the purebred dog world, David has been a successful breeder and handler and remains a sought-after judge who works internationally when time allows. Anchor, producer, host, and analyst, David co-founded the National Dog Show Therapy Dog Symposium at Rowan University. He has become a strong supporter of therapy dogs, and in fact, David founded a therapy dog organization you may have heard of. Certainly, it's one I'm very familiar with, both as a physician and as a dog owner. And that organization is Angel on a Leash, which was founded by David in New York City in 2004. David's first book, The Angel by My Side, was released in 2002. Followed by Angel on a Leash in 2011, and I will have links to those in the show notes. These works highlight his dedication to therapy dogs and their positive impact on people's lives. In 2018, David was inducted into the Dog Writers Association of America Hall of Fame for his significant contributions to the dog community. And most recently, David was named Person of the Year in the National Service Animals Memorial 2025 Purple Poppy Awards. So David really walks the walk, and the lives of so many dogs and people have been made better because of him and his work. So David, welcome to Pawsitive Vibes.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you, Yasmine, for having me on.
Oh, it's the greatest pleasure to have you on, David. And let me just say firsthand, thank you for your service to the world of dogs and your continued service. And we're going to talk about all of that in the interview. So, David, Pawsitive Vibes listeners know I like to begin at the beginning, and I'm particularly interested in how people get to be where they are at the time of our interview. So, for you, how did you get your start in the world of dogs? What drew you to working with dogs in the first place?
Well, I never had a dog in the family growing up. So when I moved into my own house in college, my girlfriend said, let's get a dog. So now I can blame all this on the girlfriend. And I said, okay, what kind? And she said, how about an Afghan hound? I said, I don't even know what that is, but okay. And we got the Afghan hound, and 3 weeks later, the girl left and the dog stayed. And it was the best thing that could have happened to all three of us. So um, I have an Afghan hound now. I'm walking around in Eugene, Oregon, and people, as they do, say, hey, I know somebody who's got an Afghan. And that eventually led me to some dog show people. I went to Washington, D.C. in the Army for 3 years and made more Afghan hound friends there, got more involved in showing and married into a level of involvement in the dog show world with Sandy Withington. And we had a great Afghan hound named Who's Zoomin' who was the top female Afghan hound in history at the time of her retirement. And and because of all those travels and all the people that I met, the Westminster people said, "Hey, we're looking for somebody to do our television. Would you be interested?" And I said, I'm a PR guy. I've not been an on-air guy, but I've done enough interviews and things over the years that, yeah, let's give it a shot. And so I did an audition. They liked it, and I liked it, and they said, do our show. And I said, well, this will be fun for a few years. Well, that was 1990. And this is from a guy who I originally wanted to become a baseball coach. My dad was a football coach, but I wanted to become a baseball coach. And I always said my career path was paved with AstroTurf. And I found out it was later that it was paved with wee-wee pads. So um, that's it. And it's brought me a lot of great things, a lot of great family things, a lot of great places to be and live, and dogs to be around, and that led me into therapy dog work, and I'm truly blessed. I'm doing something I love to do every single day.
Oh, that is so wonderful. And the Afghan hound is not the typical first, starter dog, right?
No, it isn't. I had no idea what I was getting into, and as I say, the girl left after 3 weeks, so I was pretty much out there by myself. And but I got involved with Afghan Hound people, and they were all great mentors to me, and married into the level of involvement where we had a lot of Afghan Hounds and a kennel, a hobby kennel, and we're going to dog shows every weekend, and that brought me to the things that I get to do today.
So, there's so many things you can do in the world of dogs, and you've done most of them. But why dog shows? What attracted you to the dog show world in particular?
Well, probably the sports part of it, the competition part of it. I think, go and compete and have fun with the dog that you love and the dog that loves you, and that the competitive part of it, got me going and was part of it. But as it went along, I learned there was a lot more to having a dog, and learning about responsible ownership, and having a dog in your life every single day, and it's brought me to the point where I can say, you know what, I'm getting my dogs into hospitals to do great things for people, and I'm just the transport and the treats carrier, and the dog does the work. So that's I'm lucky every day in that respect. I kind of retired from showing. I still judge dog shows all over the world, and and I'm obviously still quite involved with the dog shows on television, but I think that it all really kind of just provides the way for me to get the dog stories out there about the therapy dogs and the great things that they do, and tell people about our show dogs really are just the same as your family pet at home. They come and live with us, and do all the same things at home. They sleep on our couches. They steal food off the counters. They might even drink out of a toilet once in a while, just like your dog does at home. And we dress them up a little bit and take them to dog shows on weekends. But there's not much difference between a show dog and a family pet. And our dogs are pets first and show dogs second. So that's an important thing that we try to get that message out.
I like that message a lot. Pets first and show dogs second. Because when we watch dog shows, the dogs all seem so perfect and well behaved, and just we can't imagine our family pet ever being so perfect. But what you've just said is that they're pets first.
Well, the great Pat Craig Trotter, who is one of the great people in the dog show world with Norwegian Elk Hounds, but also judged Best in Show at Westminster a few years ago. And when she was handed the microphone, she says, "We want you to know that every pet may not be a show dog, but every show dog is a pet. So remember that when you see these dogs in the ring, that they're going home to a family, they're going home to a life that is fairly normal for a dog. It's just that we get to take them to exotic places around the country to dog shows, and have every moment of our day be with them. That's great.
And so, if there is someone listening to this who might want to get into the dog show world, who might want to show their dog, what do you advise?
Well, first of all, it needs to be something, and maybe this can come with time and training and exposure and things, but it's got to be something that the dog enjoys doing. And then from there, it's got to be something that you enjoy doing, and that consequently that the two of you enjoy doing it together and having fun, and not putting any inordinate amount of pressure on you to compete to win, but rather to have fun with your dog, make new friends amongst the people and dogs, and have something in common where you go to a dog show, and you have there's a lot of sitting around time at a dog show, and it's a good time to sit and talk to friends and talk to other people who may have Afghan hounds or may have Brittany's, my second breed, or Cavaliers, my breed now, that you can talk about your dogs, and maybe you have something in common. Say, what did my dog started doing this? What did you do to stop that? Or how did you train them out of that? And somebody will probably have an answer for you. But I think that's the starting point is that you have to have a dog that appeals to you. And a lot of people get involved with a particular breed because they may have some family history with it. They may, we're looking at second and third and fourth generation people in the show ring who are carrying on for their grandparents and great grandparents who may have started with Brittany's. And now they are carrying on that. And with a Brittany, you can do a lot of other things besides dog shows. And I think that's part of it. It may be that we get involved now with the therapy dogs in facilities, and people say, I learned that I wanted to be involved with my dog as a therapy dog because when my grandmother was in a care facility, that somebody brought a dog to visit her, and I saw how much that touched her, and so well, I'd like to be involved with that. So it's exposure of what's going on in your world all the time, and something that again it's got to be something that makes you smile. It's got to be something that the dog enjoys doing, and if they don't, it becomes too tough a project to do. And there's a lot of things you can do with your dog. If it's not dog shows, and if maybe it's not therapy dogs either, we hope it is. But there's other activities they can do. The AKC has every kind of performance event you can think about, from obedience to agility to rally to barn hunt, even, and things like that. That you can get out and have a lot of fun with your dog.
Absolutely, and I have done many of those things with my dogs, and they are fun and they increase your bond. You know, they make the bond with your dog so much stronger when you're working together toward a common goal, which is something that all these activities encourage. So that's wonderful. I also want to ask you about something we had talked about earlier since we're talking about dog shows, and we will talk more about therapy dogs later, but the intersection that you mentioned between the dog shows and the therapy dogs, you're seeing more therapy dogs at dog shows.
I think, a lot of show dogs are used to having strangers come up to them at the dog show, and some everybody's always like, "Can I pet your dog? Can I pet your dog?" Well, I'm just finishing the grooming, so maybe not, maybe in a few minutes, but and then they're used to some stranger in the center of the ring, the judge, standing in there and poking them and prodding them and putting their hands on them. So they get used to that kind of exposure that is the same kind of thing in a way that they're going to be facing as a therapy dog, because that's what everybody wants to do when you walk into a room with the dog. First of all, the energy changes when the dog walks in. And so you have to be prepared to take care of your dog, always protect your dog. But mostly the dogs can stay out of trouble on their own. But my job when I walk into a room and present my dog is to keep the dog out of trouble. I don't want them stepping into somebody's sutures. I don't want them getting tangled up in a tube of some kind. Um, and that's my job there, as opposed to in the show ring. My job is to make the dog look good and stand still and be trained properly. It's great to have a dog that's trained well, but I always say that we should worry more about what we learn from the dogs than what we teach them. And I want my dog to be happy with me and be doing what a dog does. I don't want them to be a robot. I don't want them to be a statue. I want them to be a dog. And I want them to be my dog, making me happy, making people happy, and giving us something to smile about every single day.
I absolutely love that. Because, so much of the time, emphasis is put on obedience and sometimes very strict obedience. And what you're saying and what I've seen is that maybe the most successful therapy dogs are the ones who are allowed to be dogs, within reason, right? Right?
Yeah, well, I'll never. That was the thing that Meredith Vieira asked me once on the Today Show. She says, "What are you thinking about when you lift your dog into the bed with somebody?" I said, "I just think about staying out of their way, letting them be the dog and letting them interact with the patient, and making sure that they're not." I always ask, I said, are there sutures in here somewhere that we have to know about, or do you have a sore spot, or can you sit here, or is it okay if the dog's lying next to you?" And most of the time, the answer is yes, because we know those things in advance before we go in. But it's the job of the dog. It's my job to protect the dog and to protect the patient. And from that, I just want them to interact and have a great time.
Oh, absolutely. So, David, for the National Dog Show this year, what should we be looking forward to? And are there any newly recognized breeds?
We have the AKC gives us a newly recognized breed or two or three. We're going to have three next year, but this year we have one. It's the Danish Swedish farm dog of all things. It's a new dog for the working breed, a smallish dog. It almost looks like a terrier. They hate to hear their dog described that way, but they are a working dog that originated in obviously Denmark and Sweden to work the small farms as a ratter, as a herding dog, as a protection dog. And they're great personalities and temperaments. They're sweet little dogs. They're small dogs that a lot of most working dogs, I think it's fair to say, are big dogs, big powerful dogs that do their thing with either livestock or rescue in water or pull sleds or sledges. And they are a smallish dog that looks like they should be a terrier, in the terrier group when you describe their work. But so they're a fun dog to see, and it takes the AKC has 214 breeds and varieties, 212 breeds, but of that 214 breeds and varieties that are recognized for competition in a dog show and a conformation dog show, and every year. Uh, Almost every year they say we want this dog now to be eligible for conformation. The breed has to go through some requirements from the AKC before they will recognize them. Because some of these dogs, we call them new breeds, but they've been around for hundreds of years or thousands of years, even in their native country. The deal is they haven't had enough of them in this country. They need to have a geographic distribution so they're not all living on a ranch in Texas or something. And they need to have a parent club that watches over them, that takes care, that writes their standard, that the judges use to judge them, that makes sure that their stud book is in order and that everything is going on properly with as they breed the next generations. And once that's done, they come into the miscellaneous class, which is kind of the bullpen, if you will. Then they go through some paces there. They go to dog shows and compete in miscellaneous classes, but never advance beyond that. But once they've done all of those things and the AKC is happy with that, they say they are now eligible for competition, and we're putting them in this group based on what they were bred to do, what their form, what their function was as they were being bred in Denmark and Sweden and other places. So we get a few of them every year. And again, we call them new breeds, but they're really not new breeds. They're just finally gotten to the point where there's enough of them in this country and enough interest in them, evidenced by a parent club, then they are ready to come to the dog show.
I see. And will all the breeds be represented at this year's dog show?
We have 200 and I think 202 of the 214, which is to be over 200. That's huge for a dog show. And last year we were over 200 breeds and varieties for the first time ever. And this year we're just one breed short of that. And we have just about 2,000 dogs entered. So we're going to have some of everything there. And chances are, it's a bench dog show. It's a bench dog show, which means that from a spectator standpoint, you can go and if you want to see the beagles, the beagles are in a benched area. They have to be in the same area. All the beagles have to be in the same general area. They put them on a bench and they put their crates up there. They do whatever they do, and they set up a grooming out in the aisle. And the spectators can walk through and they say, "I want to see the beagles." You can look up on the walls or in the ceiling, and there's a sign that says Beagles. Now I get to walk over there and see all the beagles. I get to talk to the beagle people and talk to them about their breed, tell me why I would want one or why I wouldn't. They're going to tell you that too, because you got to find a dog that matches your lifestyle, matches your family, because you don't want a dog to grow up from a puppy and suddenly be a dog that wasn't told you that you weren't told it was going to be. And so it's important that from the benching dog show standpoint, and we are the only single venue bench dog show in the country left. All dog shows basically were bench dog shows when they started in this country. So now we are the only place that has the benching at the place where we have the competition. Westminster has a bench dog show that they bench them somewhere, and then they go a few blocks to the Madison Square Garden for the groups at night. And so you have to make some travel plans in there. But we're proud of the fact that we're all in the same place. We have thousands of people that come through the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center in Oaks, Pennsylvania, on the day of the dog show, and they can come. It's a great family experience. It's a great fun for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. That's incredible. And I didn't realize that was the last bench dog show in the country where everything is all in one place.
We were the only bench dog show for a few years. Westminster had changed its venue around a couple of times, and now they've come back to the point. And as you know, I worked for Westminster for 27 years doing their television, and for 15 years or so as their media relations guy. So I'm familiar with their history. They have a great dog show, obviously, and a great place in history in the dog show world and in this country. Well, we think that we have a place that's very well respected and gets a lot done. We have a great television slot. We come on Thanksgiving Day, right after the parade, right after the Macy's parade. So we're in front of all these families that are gathered there waiting for the turkey to come out of the oven, and we let them make their own bets at home with their family, saying, I know that I said, I like the golden. I like the German Shepherd. And then maybe they all throw a dollar in the pool, and whoever gets the right dog wins the money. So, I mean, and it's just fun. It's entertaining. I mean, people watch our show. I mean, they're going to watch for the competition. They want to see who's going to win, who's going to be the best dog for the day, and they want to see dogs they haven't seen before. They say, what's the story on that poodle haircut? What's the deal? Why does this dog look like this? And we try to tell them some of the history of the breeds that we have on television, and and hopefully people will watch if they have a Brittany sitting on the couch next to them at home watching the dog show. I want them to root for the Brittany. I call it the alma mater factor. That you're rooting for I'm an Oregon Duck. I'm going to always root for the Oregon Ducks. And I'm a Brittany breeder. I'm always going to root for the Brittany's. So, and we talk about it on the air. John and I argue about who we think is the best looking dog. And it varies. And it doesn't matter what we think because it only matters what that one person in the middle of the ring, the judge, thinks. And it's this very subjective thing. And by the time that they're done with their work, we all say, "Geez, why didn't he pick my dog?" And people do that at home. They do it at the dog show. They do it everywhere we go. We have that same sense of competition and the same sense of loyalty to our breed.
My golden retriever, Ike, he watches the show with me and he really watches it because he's one of these dogs who understands the pictures on the television and the seeing the dogs, all these different breeds go by. It's the greatest entertainment for him.
It's amazing the pictures and the videos that we get from people at home of their dog watching it on television or running around and looking behind the TV to see where's this.
Yes.
And it's great fun because people can relate to dogs. And, everybody can't play basketball and everybody can't play football, and you can still love those sports, but you can't participate in it. And when you go to a bench dog show, for example, if I walk down that benching area, I can hug the dogs. I mean, if the owner will let me, and if the dog will let me, I can hug the dogs. Well, you can't do that with some football player that's just come off the field. You can do it at the dog show, and you can do it at a bench dog show. And our dog show, the Kennel Club of Philadelphia, the National Dog Show, yeah, allows that to happen. So it's great fun for everybody. And you can do that at home. Do it with your own dog. Because I always say this, the real best in show dog, when it's all over, the real best in show dog is that dog that's sitting next to you at home.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned how everyone can relate to dogs. So I think that is a great segue for us to talk about therapy dogs and your commitment to the therapy dog world. And you have just done so much in this world. And listeners, I invite you to listen to episode 10 of this podcast when I spoke with dog trainer Jackie Foster. We talked about therapy dogs and our own service dogs. Well, now I'm talking with David, and David founded Angel on a Leash. So please tell us about that, David, about your how you got into the therapy dog world and just more about that.
Well, it all started in Seattle back in about 2000, and my wife was going to school to write her master's thesis in therapy dogs, of all things, and to become for theology and ministry, and uh, and that's when I started visiting, and I soon was going out at full speed. Visiting here, and then we moved to New York and got involved in New York. And while I was there, I thought, this would be a great charity for Westminster to be involved in. And so we set it up originally having in mind that it was going to be a Westminster sponsored charity. And it outgrew it very quickly. So I had to establish it on its own as its own charity. So we promoted the idea of training and creating and administering programs in different hospitals and healthcare facilities. And we ended up being a lot of places in New York. We went a lot of places around the country, kind of, day by day. But in New York City, we were creating programs and overseeing them at places like the Ronald McDonald House, where our dogs in New York City, where our dogs were the first dogs ever allowed in the Ronald McDonald House. Our dogs were the first dogs ever allowed. We created a pilot program at Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, the famous cancer center. They'd never had dogs in there before. And we did a pilot program. They said, well, we're going to do this for 6 months. We're going to let you be on the women's health floor. And after 6 months, we'll evaluate it and see what goes on. Well, after a month, they said, we want dogs everywhere in our hospital. And so we immediately did, created the program and and oversaw it, and ended up a lot of other places, New York Hospital and New Alternatives for Children was one of our places. But once they hear about you, and the trick in this day and age is that you have to be certified by an organization that can provide you with liability insurance for your dogs when they're visiting under your name, that they are covered, and that's part of it. That's part of the training process. People would always say, "Well, what's involved in the training?" I said, "Well, we were involved with Pet Partners at the time, Delta Society then, and we always talk. It's a 6 week course, 1 day a week for 6 weeks, and then you're tested and then you're monitored afterwards to make sure you're doing it right." But we were very involved with people calling and saying, "What do I have to do?" And we say, "Well, the training program is really for you more than the dog." And I say, and it sounds like a throwaway line, but I say, great therapy dogs are born, not made. Because if you have a dog that would rather be running out in the field and going full speed chasing birds, that's great. And maybe that takes them out of the consideration of being a therapy dog. I don't think so in all cases, but occasionally a dog just isn't meant to be quiet and sedate and being friendly with everybody. That go find something else for them to do. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Therapy dogs is just the same kind of activity as some of the obedience and agility and everything else. It's something that the dog does, that the dog loves, and that you love it. If you don't already, you will, because you see how great your dog is at it. And whether that's therapy dogs or agility or obedience or field trials, I think that's a great thing for all of us and our dogs.
Oh, absolutely. And with the therapy dogs, I'm wondering if you could talk about therapy and service dogs. Can a therapy dog also be a service dog and vice versa?
Well, they're two different roles. As you know, a service dog is a dog that is a partner of a human who needs help in some way, whether it's in their daily lives, whether it's something like being a guide dog or being a mobility assistance dog or a seizure alert dog, or picking up something that you've dropped and putting it back in your lap, or helping lead you around. That's what a service dog is. A service dog belongs to a person and helps that person. And that's different than therapy dogs. A therapy dog has a human partner, but together they visit people in need in various settings, whether it's a place like the Ronald McDonald House or a place like the Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital, in at Columbia University, that they are there and acting at the direction of one person, but not just for that person. They're doing it for other people. And a lot of people, I think more and more today, I'm finding that people are understanding of what the difference is between they know a little bit. They know a little bit. They always come and ask me, and they don't know that Drew's my service dog, and I don't advertise it. It doesn't have to be advertised, but she is my service dog, but she's also a therapy dog, and they can do both. They understand the difference, I believe. and that what from what I've seen. But they come to me and say, "Oh, what a nice dog! Can I pet it?" Well, you should ask that of any dog, but especially you should ask that of a service dog if they have if they have a vest on or something that identifies them as a service dog. But if you just sort of you can look sometimes and say this dog might be a service dog, but you should still always ask, "Can I pet this dog?" And then they'll describe dogs as being it says that says I've heard people bring their service dogs or service dogs are dogs that visit hospitals and visit patients. Well, no, that's not quite right. And so it gives me a chance to tell the story and make sure people understand what the difference is that service dogs, you just let them do their job. Therapy dogs, you can interact with. And usually most of the therapy dogs will see somebody and they'll walk over to them and say, "Hey, give me a pet, give me a treat." you know,
That
smile at me, laugh with me.
that's right. And you touched on this a little bit earlier, but is there sometimes people wonder, is there a breed or a particular breed that makes a good therapy dog? But it seems like to me it's more of a temperament than something breed specific, isn't it?
That's true, but a lot of that temperament is brought on by their environment as they're growing up. I mean, it's there are a lot of dogs that are very good that come out of the whelping box as therapy dogs. And a lot of them, they're not all supposed to be the same. That's why we have 200 different breeds and varieties because they're all doing different things. Their jobs, what they were bred to do, kind of shapes their temperament. Their environment growing up shapes their temperament. And if they, there are a lot of, Cavaliers are great therapy dogs, just inherently so, and Labradors and Goldens. And, I can't go on naming them because I'll be in trouble with somebody for not naming but that doesn't mean that some of these dogs that are trained to be, Dobermans. People say, well, Dobermans give you that look and you step back. And I said, well, I've met some of the greatest Dobermans in the therapy dog world that do a great job. And it's often a reflection of the owner. It's often a reflection of their environment. And any dog can be a therapy dog. They can't, they won't all be, but some of them can. I've got a Springer Spaniel that's a great therapy dog. I have a Springer Spaniel over here that doesn't really care for people. They'd rather be out in the field hunting birds, and that's fine. But as long as we know that and we don't force it on the dogs and we don't expect them to do it just because they're there. Um, so yeah, the answer to the question is it's not breed specific. It's not the breed, it's the dog. And it's the dog is going to be shaped by how it grows up. It's going to be shaped by breed factors. It's going to be shaped by environment, and it's going to be shaped by training to a certain extent. The thing that I love about therapy dogs is you want them to be trained well enough to follow your cues. You have to lead them through a lot of things and say, you can't do that. Don't step. I don't, even though the guy's encouraging you, don't step up on his legs, But I want them always to look at me and say, wait a minute, this guy's asking me to do something you say I can't do. And I said, well, well, maybe it's more of a guideline than a rule. So, we do that. And I think that's the thing. I think that I've seen a lot of different breeds as therapy dogs and they've all been great because they wouldn't be there if they didn't have the recognition and acknowledge that they are certain breeds. So don't ask them to do things that are not in their breed purview, so to speak. And I think I don't know, that was a long answer to a short question, but yes, any breed can be a therapy dog with the proper training and environmental and heritage, and not all dogs can be a therapy dog.
Well,
Not
so
all.
tell us about your own therapy dogs.
Well, I've been lucky. I really didn't get into therapy dog work with my Afghan hounds because it was too early in my involvement with therapy dogs. But I've had a lot of Afghan hounds that would be great therapy dogs. I've had a lot of Afghan hounds that would not be good therapy dogs. But that's not a knock on them. It's what they're bred to do other things, and they'd rather be out running, and and they're kind of cat-like in their demeanor. That's not a knock on cats. We have therapy cats too, of course. But when I got to my Britneys are more involved with their people. And so I think that lends itself to becoming a therapy dog. If they're that way with you, that's a starting point for them to be that way with you and your family. That's a starting point for you to say maybe they can do that with other people that they just meet on the day. And I think I've been fortunate. My Britneys were great service or great therapy. Now, see, even I make the mistake. My Britneys were great therapy dogs, but I think a lot of that is because of the time and effort that we spend with them, and the fact that they lived in the home, they lived in our home, and they were with us a lot. They went a lot of places with us. And now with True, because she is my service dog, she goes everywhere with me. And people say, geez, she's so friendly. She's so happy. I said, she sees this, she does this every single day of her life, whether she's working as my service dog or working as a therapy dog. People say, well, she's a service dog. I'm not supposed to be touching her. I said, well, every once in a while, I tell her she's off duty, and she better be there if I go down. But 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 she's a dog. I don't want her to be a robot. I don't want her to be a statue. I want her to be a dog. I want her to be having fun in her life, and I want her to make life fun and good for everybody that she touches. The primary thing that I love to hear is when they say, "Can I pet your dog?"
Yes.
That's the easiest starting point. And I'll say, yes, my dog's a service dog, and it's good that you ask. If my dog was not a service dog, it's still good that you ask. And we need
Yes.
to teach our children to ask. We need to teach our children that because you can hug your dog at home doesn't mean when you see a dog of the same breed out on the streets that you can run up and hug that dog either. So I always advise parents, I said, make sure your kids understand this, that they can't just run up and hug a dog because it's a dog and you love your dog at home. Make sure all dogs are different. All dogs have different personalities, and make sure that you're getting your children to know that and understand that.
Absolutely. It makes me so happy when a child comes up and asks that question, "May I pet your dog?" That's
Well,
perfect.
sometimes they're sent with that mission, because they're standing over here and they say, "Oh, look, a dog," and mom leans down and whispers in their ear, and the kid comes over and says, "May I pet your dog?" And I said, "Yes, you may."
Yes. So, you and I have both seen some amazing things that therapy dogs can do for healing and for patients and others who are suffering in different ways or may need that sort of therapy. Can you tell us about some of your own experiences, maybe some of the ones that stand out to you?
Well, it runs the full gamut. I mean, we visit children at the Ronald McDonald House, and we visit seniors at the VA hospital in care facilities. Um, but their ability to adapt to just about anything. I mean, with Angel, I walked into a room one night that was a patient I had been seeing at Sloan Kettering for a couple of months, and she was going downhill, and I knew the end was near, and I walked into her room one night and there were like 12 people in the room. I said, that's breaking all the rules. And when that happens, you know that somebody has called and said she's gonna go any minute. So it's a whole new thing that you try to send somebody away, say, knowing that people love you, and that my dog, that Angel loves you. She's loved having time with you. And when we walked into that room, I'm going to choke up a little bit. When we walked into that room and everybody knew who Angel was, all those people in there. Says, "Oh,
Wow.
Angel." Says, "Oh." Says, "Rena always talks to us about Angel." And Rena was lying in bed and kind of on her last legs, but she was conscious and knew what was going on. And so they kind of cleared a path for me to get to the bed and get Angel up on the bed with her. And we had our moments. And I said, she loves you, and I know you love her, and God loves you, and we love you too. So Godspeed. And I'm going to leave you now with your family for a time. But that was a patient I had visited and had a relationship with over a couple of months' time, and so that was great. Then we go to I see seniors all the time. We visit hospice. There's a lot of people at hospice at the VA that are there to die, quite frankly, and you're there. You're going to be the last person they see sometimes. And when we're there every 2 days a week to see some of the same people every day that we're there, we have a relationship, and I feel like I have a place. They're special people to me. Um, but we also visit the kids at the Ronald McDonald House, kids that are battling cancer. that some of them are not going to make it. A lot of them do, because of the great things that the cancer doctors do at Sloan Kettering and at the New York hospitals where they've come to visit and they live at the Ronald McDonald House. But they're there. And when you interact with a kid we usually meet in the front room, and when you interact with them, and the parents are there, and the parents are smiling, the kid's smiling, the parents smile. That's Bill Sullivan, the CEO of the Ron McDonald House in New York, great friend of mine, great mentor of mine, said, when you make the children smile, you make the parents smile. And sometimes, these are kids that are kind of living their life in the moment because you never know when it's going to take a turn. They're living their life in the moment, and that's great because dogs live their life in the moment. And that's what makes
Yes.
them so good at what they do. And the kids smile, and the dogs are wagging their tail and happy, and the moms and dads are smiling. And we've had things where I know that's the only time this kid has smiled today. And I know that my dog has entertained them and everybody laughs and smiles and thinks it's great. But I know they're sitting in a wheelchair and they can't move their arms, that the only thing they can do with their arm is drop it off the table. And my dog runs over and high fives them
Oh, wow. That's
like that.
so special.
There's the whole, I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years and I've got a lot of fun stories. And I've got a lot of sad stories. And I've got a lot of things that I'm waiting for to happen now. But my dogs are so good at it. I mean, I'm a bystander.
And you're still, I can tell you're still blown away after all this time by what your dogs can do,
It is
what they
special.
naturally do.
They naturally do that, and it means something to the people. It means something to the patients. It means something to their families. Or the families aren't always there, but some of the time they are. So the families are touched by it too. And when I stayed in touch with people, when I lived in New York and worked at Sloan Kettering, I saw a patient, and about, I don't know, 6 months later, I ran into her on the street at the restaurant that I go to all the time. She says, "Wait," she says, "that's Grace." She says, "You came and visited me in the hospital, and you did the greatest things for me when you came." And I said, "Well, that's very nice." I have another friend that her visited her sister all the time in the hospital. I visited her sister with Grace and Angel, and 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 her sister died. And at the end of that, she created an award for Angel on a Leash to have for our therapy dogs to in honor of her sister. So and I would see her occasionally, just walking the streets of New York, going to my restaurant where they knew was near the hospital. They knew that was where I hung out, and every once in a while, people would drop in and say, "Hey, you did great things for us when we were there." I said, "That's great. My dog did it. I did it. We're all involved in it. You were there too, family. You were there every time I was there. So it's great that you were there and be supportive. And I'm sorry that it didn't end the way we all wished it had ended. But sometimes it does end well. Sometimes things do happen. And to be there and help support them and help them be confident in their fight and know that the next person I walk through this door may not be somebody with a needle or a tube. It might be a dog. So we're going to wait for that."
Right. And you had mentioned something to me earlier about a physical therapy session that basically got done by the dog. You have
Yeah,
to tell us about that.
here in Seattle, and it happened in New York. I started doing it in New York, but at the VA hospital in New York, I visited there for a lot of years. I think I have some remnants of crying back there. But here in Seattle, we do it very religiously. 2 days a week, I visit occupational therapy. I visit the hospice and I visit occupational therapy 2 days a week. And I've taught the occupational therapist, and she embraced it, and she's great and does everything right. Her name's Clara, and she uses cheese. We've got a bandana that says "Pay the cheese tax" that the dog wears. I bought a hoodie for the therapist to wear. It says "Pay the cheese tax." And they use cheese. They get a little slice of cheese and they put it on the table and they give it to the patient. And True's right there. And they say, "Okay, now give that to True." So they reach out with their arm. They're learning how to use their arms again. They've had a stroke or they're Parkinson's disease or something. In New York, we were dealing with people who had traumatic injuries from war injuries. That the same thing. They're learning how to use a new prosthetic limb or something. And so they cheese and to give it to her here. Said, "Okay, now give it to her here." Says, "Now bring it down from here and give it to her. Now walk over to the table and pick some more cheese up and come back and give her cheese." And she's reacting to all that. She's getting the guys and gals and women to do the things that the occupational therapist wants them to do. And she says, your dog just got my patient to do in 10 minutes what I've been trying to get him to do for 3 days. And because these patients now suddenly they've done their PT. And they don't really, they probably do realize it, but they don't think about it at the time. They've done all this range of motion stuff that the occupational therapists want them to do, and it makes True a hero. They love True, True loves them, and the occupational therapist is a star in my mind and makes it all happen. And I'm lucky to have a lot of great people like that are in our world that have relationships that they know what we want to do. And we were down yesterday, in fact, in a PT area with parallel bars where a guy was learning how to walk again. And True was standing in front of him and backing up as he walked towards her, and he was aiming at her and talking to her as he did it. And when he got to the other end, he gave her some cheese, and it was a great moment. And
Uh,
so and that
I
kind of
just
kids can do.
I just love that. Well, there may be people listening, David, who think, well, maybe my dog could be a therapy dog. Where should they start with that if they want to get into this?
Well, you find an agency that certifies them, and they usually provide some kind of training classes. But talk to your groomer, talk to your vet, talk to your boarding areas people, and find out where those facilities might be. There are a lot of them that are all over the country. Pet Partners is all over the country. They happen to be headquartered here in Seattle. There are TDI, a lot of other places. There's a bunch of them out there. You can ask around and find out where the best ones are. And maybe if you find out from somebody says, I know somebody who's a therapy dog person that I'd love to talk to them and find out where they were trained, what's involved in it, and what they think my dog should be like to have a chance to be good at it. And I think, most dogs are dogs. They want to be with people. I had a TV guy, my TV partner one time at Westminster. I had 9 partners in 27 years. But my TV partner was Joe Garagiola one year, and he asked me, he says, look at that look. We had a dog on camera on the screen. He says, look at that look. He says, what do you think he's thinking? Don't you wish they could talk? And I said, no, I don't want them to talk. First of all,
Exactly.
they know too much. Yeah. But secondly, I know what they would say. They would say, me too, because they always want to be with me. They always want to go places with me and do things with me and do things with the people that I interact with. And it's kind of you can laugh about it, but I know they want to go. You have to spell certain words, Ball. With
Yes.
on Brittany's, you have to
Treat.
Treat, the same thing. And I have patients nowadays who will say to me, "Can I give her a Treat?" I mean, I've got patients that I'll walk into their rooms and since we've started going to them, somehow they've smuggled in some dog treats and they're ready to give her treats. I had a patient that had his own food cache in his room, and he had
Wow.
string cheese in there. And every time I got in there, he said, "Stop right there, get some string cheese out of there for True." And so that the dogs want to do it if you give them the opportunity. But if you want to find out, you can look up therapy dogs online. There's a lot of places online, but you can start with Pet Partners. You can go to TDI, Therapy Dogs International, and other places. There are a lot of new ones lately because of the demand, because of the need that we have to get dogs into the world and get them helping people get well, get better, or survive in an environment that they're not doing well in. But you know, there's always something for a dog, whether it's just walking in the room. A dog walks into the room and the energy changes. People smile. They start talking. They haven't been talking for a while. They haven't talked all day, the guy says. They start thinking about something other than the challenges they may be facing. They say, God, this guy's not going to give me a shot. This guy's not going to take blood. This guy's not going to put something in my tube. This guy's not going to make me move around in the bed so they can change the bed. So you're good for their world. You're good for them to know and have and be waiting for. He says, she's been waiting for you all day. Says, this is good. I'm glad you're here. I said, well, I've been trying to get here all day, so we're all happy and we'll go from there. So you'll
Oh,
change your life. I changed my life. And I know that we've changed a lot of lives along the way, but it's certainly changed my life.
absolutely. I can tell that. And that's the beauty and the wonder of dogs. is that there's that whole phrase, "Who rescued whom?" And they
Absolutely.
do as much, if not more, for us as we do for them.
Yeah.
It's consistently true. So
I'm
thank you
blessed.
so much for sharing that, David. And we could talk and talk all day about this. We could, but we're going to have to wrap up here. And before I get to my final question that I ask all my guests, I want to ask you: do you have anything else that you want to add or that you want listeners to know?
Oh, I, I think I've let it all out there. I think that's you know, enjoy your dog, hug your dog every day. Thank them for letting you be the person on the other end of the leash. That's and know that the dog misses you. The minute you go away, the dog misses you. That's why they're not trying to be a pest. They're not trying to, make you give them a treat. They just want to be with you, and that's what makes them so good at the human animal bond, and all the things that we do every day with our dog. And the part about me too, me too. That's very real. Dogs want to be with you. Take them when you can.
Absolutely. Nothing makes them happier than just being with you, being with their owners. I love that. So thank you so much, David. The
Thank
last
you.
question that I ask all the guests, because the motto of Positive Vibes is keep on the sunny side. So, David, how do you keep on the sunny side?
Well, I start my day by hugging my dog because she's usually sleeping on the bed with me. And but just doing things with my dog, taking the dog with, it's second nature to me. And everywhere I go, people are used to me coming in with a dog. And they know that she's a service dog, and they're happy to see her, and she's happy to see everybody. But I think that's it. Keep my dog with me so that I always have a reason to smile, that I always have somebody to bounce something off of. She doesn't always give me a very articulate answer, but I can tell that she's there to support me and to be a part of what I do every day. And I think that's given me a great life, and I'm going to keep doing that every day. Wake up, find the dog, and let's go. What do we got today?
Oh my goodness. I'm smiling so big right now. I just love that so much. Well, thank you again, David, for being on the show. I really can't thank you enough. And we're all looking forward to the National Dog Show. I will have links in the show notes to that. And again, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for believing in therapy dogs and all the dogs.
I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Remember that you can view the slideshow version of this episode on YouTube via the link in the show notes, or by going to YouTube and searching for Positive Vibes by Yasmine S. Ali, MD. And as a bonus, there is a blooper video attached to that episode on YouTube. You see, I'm often asked if I'm the one playing the piano for this podcast's music. And the answer is yes, that's me. And in fact, if you go back and watch the very first couple of episodes, you will see and hear me singing part of the song, Keep on the Sunny Side. Well, there's a blooper video that took place while I was practicing that song, and it involves a dog. So be sure to check that out if you'd like an extra laugh. Thank you again for listening. I'll see you next time, and keep on the sunny side.